and understanding bio threats. In fact, he is the co-founder of what is known as the CCP Bio Threats Initiative. He is also a senior advisor to the World Organization to investigate the persecution of Falun Gong, blight that the Chinese have also afflicted, in that case on their own people, not simply ours, and others around the world. He is, not least, a survivor of the Tiananmen Square massacre. We are very, very honored to have him with us to talk a bit about, well, what I think is the Chinese Communist Party's chemical warfare in America, the health and environmental repercussions of these marijuana operations. Sean, it's great to have you, sir. Welcome once again. Over to you.
Thank you very much for inviting me to this panel. Listen to you and Charles just talk about the situation in Maine. It really saddens me. It reminded me actually in the 1940s when the Chinese Communist Party had a so-called civil war against Kuomintang. You know, at the time, the Chinese Communist Party have its own territory in the northwest of China, and then the Kuomintang is only majority of the China. But at the time, the Communist Party already using the tactic about these illegal drug, right? So in Shanxi province at the time, CCP had this official marijuana business. They grow marijuana in tremendous volumes and then make drugs from that and then deliver it through, you know, illegal trafficking routes into the area, the territories that the Kuomintang controls. And CCP not only make a lot of money from this to support their own operation in Shanxi province, and they also devastated the province in Hebei province, in Shandong province, in many provinces when people get so many drugs, and then it also ruins local economies too. And so this is kind of remind me this kind of situation. You know, now China have these decades of experience of how to cultivate marijuana, and then, you know, now we have the free land in the United States. So basically, they try to create this marijuana producing mechanism, selling mechanism, trafficking system inside the U.S. try to ruin the population here. So to me, cultivating marijuana, this illegal cultivation, is not just cultivating the marijuana. It's actually cultivating a market that so many American people can be addicted to drugs. At the beginning, it's the marijuana, and people can feel this is initial entertainment. But eventually, the CCP goal is to attract American people to more lethal fentanyl. Right? In this process, of course, a lot of Chinese gangs, some of these, you know, their drug cartels can make a lot of money from this process. But the key issue is eventually they will destroy American culture, kill many American people, weaken American power in the global stage. So I think this is the whole scheme. And so in this process, of course, many of the Chinese gangsters can be utilized, can be incentivized by the government to grow these marijuana. So at the beginning, they also do a lot, this kind of illegal marijuana cultivation in the Golden Triangle in the Southeast Asia. And they learned a lot from this experience in those areas, because those areas also have very poor law enforcement. So they learn how to use all kinds of modern fertilizers, modern toxic insecticides, pesticides, and they collect a lot of experience in the Golden Triangle. And now these Chinese gangsters bring their experience into the America, and they can do it very efficiently because they know when they use this toxic pesticide, insecticide, they can quickly kill any insects, even kill many of the rodents in the farm. They can harm their cultivation of the marijuana. And so they can have very big boost of the production of marijuana. And so in this way, they can make a lot of marijuana and they sell it at a lower price. And then they can flood it into the American market to create younger generation, create American community into like a huge market to the really want the entertainment for marijuana. So in this way, they can, make a lot of money in this process and ruin American community. So these predicts, they have a lot of experience accumulating Golden Triangle, and they know these definitely are very highly toxic pesticide, insecticides, and many of those even can cause lethal problems. For example, carbofuran. This is a very, you can say, extremely toxic insecticide. It's banned in the US, it's banned in China, but they still can bring it to the United States, and it can kill people with very minute, minimum quantities. And so this exposure can cause neurological symptoms, vomiting, respiratory distress. You can basically treat this like neurotoxins. And then they also use organophosphates, like profanols and also phenylbucarbs. Some of these organophosphates, these are also illegal drugs in the United States, illegal fertilizer chemicals in the United States, but they don't care about the impact to the people who cultivate the marijuana, don't care about the consumers using the marijuana, they don't care about the impact to the environment. Right? So not only these, the toxic pesticide insecticides can heal the nerve system, it can be even lethal if people just inhale it. And also, it will also cause a large environmental damages, because many of these cultivation houses, they use a lot of fertilizer as well. They also need to use a lot of cleaning reagents, and all these runoff will be polluting the environment, and also the damage to the soil is long term. It's not easy to be dissolved when it is absorbed into the soil. So it can be a long time damage. And not only these just pesticides, you also have heavy metals involved in there. So you can have lead, you can have arsenic, you can have cadmiums. All these also contaminants for the soil. And these substances can also further into the food chains. And so in this way, many people consume some of the products growing from the neighborhood farms or from the animals can also have health hazards. So this impact is tremendous in so many different aspects. And also in this cultivation house, they also have problem with microbial and biological contaminants, for example, mold, fungi. So they also use a lot of fungicide as well. And also these areas are also quite often contaminated with different pathogens, bacterial pathogens like E. coli, salmonellas. So these illicit cannabis growing house, they can have very poor health condition, and the workers and the illegal immigrants working in there can have huge health problem as well. But the Chinese drug law doesn't care about this situation. What they care is just about the profit and how do they create even larger market in the United States. And the Chinese gangsters who are doing this drug market, they are very unique because they have a lot of experience creating a large network, and they have tremendous organized network, so they can come to Maine in this area to buy the different properties. And you didn't see other minorities like Hispanic or African American doing this business, because Chinese gangsters is the most well organized, and they occupy more than 80% of the business of illegal marijuana cultivations. And they know this is a very effective way to make a lot of money and then ruin the American society. So I think this is part of the big chemical warfare strategy that CCP push out. They let these gangsters bring their experience from China, from Southeast Asia, from the Golden Triangle, bring it to the United States, and then expand the business, ruin American culture. And then at the same time, they manufacture fentanyls in Mexico, and then bring it through Mexico or through Canada to the United States, and then kill more people. So this is a great strategy. So let me just finish here right now.
Wonderful. Sean, thank you so much. You're absolutely right. Of course, fentanyl is a whole nother line of chemical warfare attack by the Chinese communists against us. And it's, now, as I recall, the last number I saw was something like 200,000 Americans have been murdered by that form of toxic agent. It remains to be seen what the loss of life is as a result of the kinds of chemical warfare with the marijuana grow operations that you've described and Steve reported on as well. We're going to turn next to another of our colleagues at the Committee on the Present Danger China, I'm proud to say. His name is Trevor Loudon. He is a very regular feature of these webinars, and I cannot express adequately how appreciative I am that he unfailingly makes himself available, including on very short notice, as was the case today. Trevor is one of America's, national treasures. I call him a binational treasure, as he hails originally from New Zealand. But we appreciate him here for sure, and are delighted that he has made it his life's work to document the phenomenon of enemies within. And I'm fond of pointing out that since Joseph Stalin successfully destroyed Joseph McCarthy, a senator who warned for a time effectively and actually quite accurately about Soviet communist penetration of our government. Once he was taken out, the communists made a point of trying to ensure that we thought there was no such thing as enemies within, and ceased to be concerned about what is a real and ongoing, indeed intensifying problem, about which Trevor is, as I say, hazardous to your health, especially at the higher levels of THC, as I understand it. Is that correct, sir?
These drugs is very because it's gradually become more and more seductive, so marijuana illicit cultivation house, they have when they're using so strong pesticide insecticide, actually it will actually transform some of the chemical structures and organic components inside the marijuana as well. And so the product they use will be even more seductive, it will be more addictive for people to using the marijuana. So to pay attention to the product they produce there, it's not those marijuana that people originally campaigned for medical use. It's actually different. And at the same time, these marijuana products, when they using Chinese way to produce it, it can make it more addictive as well. So definitely it's a strategic way. They grow their own version of marijuana and then enrich for their toxin capabilities, and increase its addictive capacities as well. So the definitely pave a better way for fentanyl to come in to kill people. And so people become more and more get used to the so-called concept you getting some relaxed entertainment from marijuana, so-called entertainment consumption. So definitely need to be tracking down in history who was the forces promoting marijuana entertainment usage. I think there's a problem being rooted for a long time, and the communist ideologies and their tactics has been infiltrated in the United States for a long time. So that's created an overall situation that American society changed their livelihood, changed their habits, changed their so-called entertainment resources. I think we need to look into that in a deeper way.
I thank you for pointing this out. Our colleague Didi Logason has just shared with me some statistics that there are medical uses of marijuana that you've just mentioned, Sean, that are allowed in 40 of our 50 states, and in 24 of the states, recreational use or entertainment use, as you put it, is permitted as well. And especially with just the higher power, I guess one might call it, of the legal versions of marijuana, to say nothing of what's being insinuated into the supply by the Chinese Communist Party and its triad gangs, is unquestionably going to compound the problem of drug abuse in our country, and harder drugs as well. all of which, as Trevor has pointed out, serves the interests of the Chinese Communist Party.
This idea, I think, that marijuana is a soft drug,
Yeah.
is one of the biggest demotivators you can possibly imagine. They don't call it dope for nothing. Like I got a very close friend who's got a young boy who works in a restaurant, and he's practically manager there now at 22 because he's the only one there that doesn't smoke dope. He's the only one that turns up there every day, that works a full shift, that is reliable. All of the rest of them are outside using marijuana at work. It is endemic amongst the young people, especially in certain industries. But it's a huge demotivator. It's an insidious drug, and I think it's worse than many of the so-called hard drugs because of the long-term psychological effects that it has on people. It's not an immediate thing, like it's not going to kill you, it's not going to send you to the emergency room, but over a period of several years' use, it's going to do massive damage to your psychology. And this is hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of young Americans who are coming into the workforce at low efficiency levels, and let alone what they'll be like in the military if called to serve. So yeah, I think marijuana is not in any way a soft drug or a harmless drug or a gateway drug to worse things. I think it is one of the worst things.
Could I come back to you, Sean?
Yes.
This is you've kind of alluded to it, but the extent to which we have seen criminal enterprises, and now, as we've been discussing over the past hour, our most dangerous enemy actively exploiting the opportunity to be present here, to be cultivating these certainly hazardous, if not actually toxic, drugs, and participating in a burgeoning criminal enterprise by disseminating them across the country. This creates a kind of chemical warfare that is, arguably vastly more dangerous than a lot of the others. I mean, in tactical situations, as you know from your time in the United States Army, chemical weapons can be very, very hazardous to your health, for sure. But we're talking about across the country and a population that is absolutely huge, if not very substantial part of our population. Talk a little bit about that, if you would, again, in the context of what the Chinese are thinking about this and their exploitation of these opportunities.
Ironically, CCP in the past decades keep reminding Chinese people, they said the Western industrial countries defeated China through the Opium War, right? Mm-hmm. So they thought they were blaming the Western powers bringing opium to China and making Chinese younger generation so weak, and they keep broadcasting those pictures, images that the Chinese young generation lying on the bed just smoking the opiums, and they said this is devastating to the China in the 19th centuries. Well, they basically actually using the same strategy, or is in a reverse way. They're using this opium war right now against the United States. Yeah. So they, definitely want to weaken the American younger generation by making them addicted to the modern opium, this is the marijuana. So I fully agree with Trevor's point. Even when I was in the military, I know the young soldiers, when they get to Friday night, get to Saturdays, quite often they find a place, enjoy some marijuanas. It's a common, actually, in young soldiers. I was shocked at the time. But anyway, it becomes so common for younger generations. And so this is definitely changing the younger generation culture. Their concept about how to relax themselves, how to reduce stress, and they being brainwashed that you can use this marijuana to create some entertainment. It's a recreational usage of the drug. So definitely CCP is applying this tactic to the United States. And like Trevor mentioned, Mr. Jin Changrong, he's the advisor to Xi Jinping, to the top leaders in China. And he also mentioned his own word is in Chinese called 邪招. It means wicked strategies. He said that CCP can use some wicked strategy against the United States, and not only just influence the elections and control U.S. market, but also weaken the American society. This is also one of the tactics. So now you can see they're implementing it step by step, very strategically, very aggressively, and they exporting the transnational organized crime into the United States to run it. On the surface, they are maybe just like a low-level gangster, but no, if you look at the Chinese transnational criminal organization, they have the most sophisticated organization strategies. They have MBA knowledge in there. They have doctors involved in making different versions of drugs. So they are the most sophisticated, most educated, most well-run transnational criminal organization. So this definitely is very bad news.
Yeah. Let the record show that it was the Brits who used opium on the Chinese, and obviously it did have a hugely destructive effect on the Chinese population at the time. Could you just answer one other question, Sean, about the relationship between the Chinese triads and the Chinese Communist Party? There, I'm sure, are some who are going to hear this and say, well, that's the Chinese mafia. That's not the Chinese government. And one of the reasons why I wanted to read that passage from Steve Robinson's interview with Tucker Carlson about these United Front Work Department operations out of the Chinese consulate. And Trevor, you're an expert on this, so I want to get your thoughts on it as well. But is there, in fact, plausible deniability, even, let alone actual, firewalls between the Chinese communists and the mafia that operates in China and elsewhere around the world, including here? Sean?
Well, it was CCP actually is behind all these drug laws and their operations in Golden Triangle area. And the Chinese government financially supporting the juntas, the warlords in those areas, and make sure that they can, create a territory for the Chinese operations. And so Chinese not only do these illicit drug cultivation in those areas, but they also set up, now they even telephone scamming camps in there. And so all kinds of, illegal operation, they can set it up in those regions, and then Chinese government providing the mechanism for money launderings as well. And so basically it's CCP operated system, just they are not in the front, but it's definitely CCP supported the operation. And you can see even fentanyl, it's very specific target to the United States. If you look at Southeast Asia, the fentanyl is not on the market in there, but it's very specifically targeted to the United States. So it's definitely a strategic move, and the government, CCP government, is behind it, providing the production, providing the chemistry, providing the chemical engineers, and then providing the money laundering system. And then they set up the distribution network in the United States as well through the organized crime network. Yeah, and then they can use their WeChat system for these concealed communications, so that the law enforcement in the United States is hard to track. Yeah.
Right. This is such an important point, and again, I think that there is a tendency to give the Chinese the benefit of the doubt when they insist that they're shocked. They're shocked that there's fentanyl, the ingredients for it coming out of China. I mentioned John Molinar, who I really hold in the highest regard. I think all of our committee on the present danger China do. He has produced a study from the committee that indicates that the Chinese government is actually subsidizing the production of the fentanyl ingredients, as well as in the other ways that you're talking about, ensuring that they get to the hands of the cartels where they're assembled and then moved into the United States with just incredibly devastating effect. Trevor, would you like to say something further about this this issue of the Chinese Progressive Association